A Fallout TV show is on the way, Spider-Man 2 makes PlayStation history, and the Diablo PC fueled by human blood. I'm Ash Dixon and this is GINX News. The release date for Amazon Prime Video's Fallout TV show has been announced. It came from the official Fallout on Prime Twitter account along with a new teaser which shows a computer terminal displaying various messages, including one that says holotape found 101. The end. It then finishes with the date, the 4th of the 12th, 2024, which as a British person initially made me think, damn, that's far away. But then I remembered that Americans do that funny thing with their dates, and it's actually coming out on April the 12th next year. Thank God for that. The Fallout TV show will be set in Los Angeles, and according to reporters who had access to a private teaser, it will probably feature the Brotherhood of Steel and a Western-inspired narrative. The series is being produced by Kilter Films, the production company behind HBO's Westworld, and the debut episode will be directed by Westworld co-creator Jonathan Nolan. Captain Marvel and Tomb Raider co-writer Geneva Robertson-Dworet and Silicon Valley co-executive producer Graham Wagner have been appointed as showrunners, and as we know by now, TV and film adaptations of video games have had a checkered history. For every Last of Us or Castlevania, there's an Assassin's Creed or Resident Evil. However, the general trend has been upwards, with more and more shows receiving genuinely positive acclaim like Arcane and Cyberpunk Edgerunners, both very good, check them out. And the Fallout universe is ripe for interesting storytelling with its expansive world and tongue-in-cheek tone, so fingers crossed they nail it. So it turns out Insomniac's Spider-Man games are actually pretty good. Man, who would have guessed? Well, Sony are certainly happy because, as it turns out, Spider-Man 2 sold 2.5 million copies in its first 24 hours, making it the fastest selling PlayStation Studios game in history. That means it's beaten out some absolute classics like God of War Ragnarok and The Last of Us Part 2. In fact, the first Spider-Man game took 3 days to hit 3.3 million copies sold, so going by that trend, I think it's safe to say that a third game is basically inevitable at this point. Now, that doesn't mean it's been completely smooth sailing for Spider-Man 2. It's a tad more buggy than we'd expect from an Insomniac title. Plus, there's also the issue that Miles Morales' family home features a Cuban flag, a bit awkward considering they're Puerto Rican. Now, let's be honest, the two flags clearly have their similarities, but still, it's a pretty big mistake nonetheless. Either way, we're playing the game over on our Twitch at the moment, so go check that out in the description below. Now, yesterday we chatted about City Skyline 2's abysmal FPS, go check out the video for all those details, but we now have an update thanks to a recent Reddit AMA from one of the devs. And what they said has caused quite the stir. You see, at first they were asked about plans for optimization, and as you would expect, they acknowledged some of the issues with the game and talked about their plans to fix them. But it was in a follow-up reply that they revealed something interesting. They said, "It is worth mentioning for a game like this, the performance target is to run at steady 30 FPS minimum, not 60 or more." And as you can imagine, that raised some eyebrows. The trend for modern games is to aim for 60 FPS, not that many modern titles actually achieve that these days, so 30 feels like a pretty low bar. Well, the developer went on to explain that the decision was based on the nature of the game, saying there are no real benefits in a city builder to aim for higher FPS, unlike a multiplayer shooter, as a growing city will inevitably become CPU bound. What matters more with this type of game is to avoid stutters and have responsive UI. And look, a lot of that makes sense. FPS is always going to be more important in action games where the camera is moving around loads, and sure, avoiding stutters and a responsive UI is super important, but I'm going to put my foot down here. I don't care what type of game it is, 60 FPS is always empirically better, like there's just no question. There's also the issue that if you have a target of 60 FPS and you say hit 50 instead, it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. But if your target is 30 FPS and instead you're hitting 20, as we've seen with City Skylines 2, well, it's just not acceptable, especially when you're running the game on a rig that costs thousands of dollars. Again, there's also the question of city population. They say the target is 30 FPS, but is that when you're running a massive city or when you first start the game? Because as we discovered in yesterday's video, that can vary wildly. I'm curious what you think though. Is FPS as important in city builder games, or should 60 FPS be the minimum no matter what? Let me know in the comments down below. It's no secret that Diablo 4 has struggled to maintain the monumental hype that it launched with, and Blizzard are no strangers to bizarre PR campaigns to get their game in the news. Well, they're at it yet again by giving away a Diablo-themed PC that is liquid cooled with real human blood. Yep, you heard that right. The campaign is called The Blood Harvest, and strangely, it's actually for a good cause. You see, for a chance of winning the bloody thing, See what I did there? Enough people have to submit proof that they donated blood at a US clinic of their choice. And once 1,332 pints of blood have been donated, the sweepstake officially opens. Now, sadly, the grand prize is only available for Americans, which seems fair considering it's literally their blood being donated, but it does seem that there's other tiers of reward that will be unlocked for everyone. And interestingly, at the time of recording, it looks like we're already over a third of the way. So good job there. So what does the PC actually contain? Well, it has an NVIDIA RTX 4090, an i9 3900K, 64 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, and a 3TB SSD. That's nearly enough to get 30 FPS on City Skylines 2. Woohoo! Oh, and don't forget the liquid cooling infused with real human blood. Now, it isn't immediately clear, but I kind of want to know whose human blood is in this thing. It sounds strange, but I'd probably want it more or less depending on whose blood is flowing through its veins. Either way, if you want to contribute, you can head over to diablobloodharvest.com, and who knows, maybe people will start playing Diablo 4 again. If you're anything like me, your childhood was absolutely shaped by the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games. For me personally, it led to me taking up skateboarding as a young child, breaking my arm in 2 places after attempting a McTwist off an Argos kicker ramp, before having my older brother rage at me on the car ride to the hospital because he didn't get to save his game of Star Fox. Ah, memories. But it also had a fundamental impact on my music taste because, let's be honest, the soundtracks to those games were S tier. Less Than Jake, System of a Down, The Distillers, NWA, Flogging Molly. Honestly, I can't even count how many incredible bands those games exposed to me at such a young age. In fact, they're probably a key reason why I now make music myself. No apologies for the shameless plug. So it all seems to make sense why my heart was brimming with nostalgic glee when a certain video went viral on TikTok over the weekend. You see, punk rock heroes Goldfinger played a set at the When We Were Young festival in Las Vegas, and quick side note, please someone donate me tickets for next year. I mean, just look at this year's lineup. Literally salivating over here. But back to the story, for Goldfinger's set, they played their iconic song Superman, and none other than Tony Hawk himself came to the stage with a microphone in hand. He went on to nail the song and secured himself as possibly the coolest person in existence. And this isn't the first time he's done this. Last year he hit the stage in London with the THPS cover band The 900, and as someone who saw them play at a music festival this year, trust me, it's a good time. Now, I realize some of our younger audience may have missed out on the absolute magic that was the Tony Hawk Pro Skater game, so if you fancy discovering some new music, do yourself a favor and go listen to some of the soundtracks of each of those games. Trust me, you won't regret it. Also, you guys could help out in the comments, let us know your favorite track from the games. And that's the show. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving us a like and subscribe. It means we can keep making these videos. Catch up on yesterday's news right here, and we'll see you tomorrow.